open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Welcome to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host, Richard Nelson, Executive Director of the Commonwealth Policy Center, and it is so good to be with you. Thank you all for joining us this morning, this beautiful Tuesday morning, May the 26th. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to text us, by the way, at 502-571-0970. Again, 502-571-0970. And I promise I will do my best to respond. Well, hey, it is really good to be pinch hitting here on Kentucky's Voice this morning. I got a message from Tom yesterday afternoon, and something fell through with their scheduled host. And I said, Tom, sure, man, I'm glad to do it. Of course, we're coming off of a primary election with a lot to talk about. So I was already somewhat prepared for this program. And we will get to primary election analysis later in the program. But we've also got several other topics to talk about. Some of you, by the way, may listen to daily commentaries that we do, the Commonwealth Minute. Several of the topics today will be from the Commonwealth Minute. And then also we host the Commonwealth Matters. And before I forget, I'll just put out CPC's contact information. You can find more information about us at CommonwealthPolicyCenter.org. It's just the name of our group with a .org at the end, CommonwealthPolicyCenter.org. So, Eastern Kentucky University hosted a controversial Spice Ice concert. We'll talk about that here in a few moments. Breathitt County Schools settles a social media harms case with Meta. That's the parent group of Facebook. And that's big news coming from the mountains of Eastern Kentucky. And then a Louisville 8th grader speech goes viral. Parents in California had their minor daughter taken away from them, and the state of California is in the process of placing that child in a permanent home, putting it through the adoption process simply because the child, born female, believes they're male, and the parents disagreed with that. And we will talk further about that later in the program, along with some other issues here. So, Eastern Kentucky University is hosting a controversial Spice concert. And I misspoke. I said Spice Ice. Actually, it's a rapper by the name of Ice Spice. And this is a rapper, been around for a few years. And they're going to be keynoting or headlining, not keynoting, headlining a concert for EKU students for their Big E welcome concert in the fall of 2026, just a couple months away. So here's the question I have for all of you. Is exposing college students to raunchy and vulgar performances part of higher education today? Now, some in higher ed, including at Eastern Kentucky University, apparently think so. This is part of broadening horizons, exposing students, young people, to different views and different forms of art or entertainment. Now, listen to this. According to the Lexington Herald-Leader, EKU officials agreed to pay this controversial rapper, Ice Spice, $275,000 for an on-campus performance at the EKU campus in Richmond. Now, Ice Spice, you should know about this, is known for provocative outfits, raunchy comments, raunchy lyrics, and dehumanizing women. And now she is the featured performer in August, just a few months away, welcoming alumni and students back as the new school year begins. So I've seen some comments online from people who are saying, "Hey, this is free speech," but is it free speech? And by the way, there are lyrics here that I've got in front of me. I'm not going to read them, but is this a free speech issue? Is this what higher education should be about? Is it what it wants to be known for? Some argue that it is. Call us or text us at 502-571-0970 with your comments, and we'll be back.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Richard Nelson. Thank you so much for joining us. And just before the break, we were talking about Eastern Kentucky University's controversial welcoming a rapper by the name of Ice Spice to headline a welcome back event for students beginning in August. This is a controversial rapper who, if I were to read some of the lyrics and showed you some pictures of promotional material for this rapper, I wouldn't be invited back on the program again. So I will spare you from all of that. But I did ask right before the break, is this really what higher education wants to be known for? Is this really broadening our minds? Do you want your tax dollars going to support something like this? If you have questions or comments, text us at 502-571-0970, 502-571-0970. There is a free speech advocate in Kentucky who's lobbied for this issue over the years, and they were making the case that this is really about a First Amendment freedom of speech issue. And in some regards, there is free speech here, but let's parse this down a little bit finer. Look at it in more detail. You know, when you have a university which is publicly funded, $81 million, by the way, according to my source, comes from state taxpayer dollars. Is this, you do have the question of, should public tax dollars support something like this that is highly offensive? Many of the taxpayers who foot the bill for these kind of things, should they be footing the bill? Then you have another question. Is this what our civilization is about? Is this what our democratic ideals about here? Where higher ed is supposed to be the institution that shapes young minds, that passes on truths that are necessary to sustain our society. And is this what we want here in this country? Is this what we pay for? I mean, those are some thoughts. I'm sure there's a diversity of opinion on this, but I want to approach it from a Christian perspective. As Christians, we should be for those ideals that build up, ideals that speak truth, ideals that uphold the value of women, ideals that say there are moral boundaries, there are moral guardrails in our society, and if you push against those guardrails, there are consequences. So these are the questions that I'm putting out there for you. Some of the thoughts I'm putting out there for you. If you have any comments or questions, call in at 502-571-0970. Breathitt County Schools settles a big lawsuit with Meta. This is the parent company of Facebook. And this is big news because the Breathitt, small county in eastern Kentucky, took Meta to court. And they were suing Meta because they're saying social media, particularly Facebook, I think Instagram is under their banner too. Meta controls that. A lot of more younger people are on Instagram. But Breathitt County administrators were saying, hey, they are targeting students. They're using addictive algorithms that kids are being targeted with certain messages. And by the way, these algorithms, if you're not familiar with how this works, and I'm not exactly sure, but here's how I understand it. They find what people are clicking on, whether it's young or old, whatever age group. They find out what the user is clicking on. What are they spending their time on? What kind of posts? And then what kind of videos or reels are they interacting with and spending time on? And what these algorithms do is they continue to put similar information or similar reels or similar content out there in front of the user. Now, in particular for students, this is very addictive. Young kids are more susceptible to messaging and to addiction. And Breathitt County leaders are saying, hey, this is not healthy. This is not what we want our kids to be spending all their time with. And so they charged Meta with compromising students' mental health by promoting addictive type programming, addictive type material. Now, friends, this is the third time within the last 5-6 months that Meta has been found liable for pushing a dangerous and addictive product on minors. I had mentioned in one of my commentaries a while back, just a couple months ago, that there was a landmark ruling in New Mexico that found Meta guilty of knowingly targeting minors and pushing a dangerous product on them. It was fascinating because during this lawsuit, where the New Mexico's Attorney General got a hold of emails between the Meta employees, and one of the employees said, "Hey, if we cover up this study, would this be like big tobacco covering up studies showing the addictive quality of tobacco and the dangerous health outcomes of long-term tobacco use?" The study that they were referring to, by the way, was that Meta ran a study about if they had put controls in their product, in Facebook and in Instagram, to keep harmful stuff away from kids, what would it do to impact the company? And they found that they're going to lose a lot of future users of Facebook and Instagram and whatever else they had. So that was part of the findings that the New Mexico Attorney General had. And that was troubling. So they found Meta guilty of peddling an addictive product to kids, found guilty of paying in order to pay $375 million. That's not the end of it. There's another segment in this lawsuit where Meta could end up paying a lot more. Another case with Meta found that they targeted a young woman, unhealthy, who got addicted in Southern California, the LA area, and they were found guilty, ended up forced to pay. It was in the millions of dollars in that case. All right, got a question that just came in. We'll break for that. It says this: what do you think of the open primary in Jefferson County for mayor and Metro Council? Now we have two Democrats running for mayor. Many people were worried that the open primary may create partisan control without a fair bipartisan election. All right, well, I'm going to be totally transparent. I was not aware that Jefferson County has an open primary. I was aware that they did change their election process in that when candidates were on the ballot for Metro Council seats, whether it was for the Metro Council or for mayor, it was partisan. Those running for mayor had to be, there was a Democrat, there was a Republican, same for the Metro Council seats. And now they've removed the partisan labels from Jefferson County races. Perhaps this is what you're talking about. I would say this, if that is the case, I would say my thinking is that this would have probably benefited Republicans. The reason why, and when I say benefit, I mean removing the partisan labels from your name when it comes to local offices in Jefferson County. The reason why is because Louisville is a deep blue city in Kentucky. And for years and years, it was dominated by Democrats. They were the ones who were winning the elections. Now, this has changed since 2020, and the public safety issues, the vandalism, the looting, the damage to private property in Louisville during 2020, 2021, we've seen a change. And Louisville is now voting Republican, where the split on the Metro Council is almost 50-50, Democrats to Republicans. Republicans are just a couple of seats shy of a majority. And again, the thinking is that you remove the partisan labels and it should help Republicans. So that's the question. And I think that's what should be looked at when you go to the polls in November. I'm not sure how the primary was handled, if they have the top vote getters, top 2 or 3 vote getters, but maybe not. Maybe it ends up benefiting Democrats. We'll see. We will see what happens with that. So thank you for that question. Again, if you have any other questions, contact us via text message at 502-571-0970. So Breathitt County, back to that while in a remaining minute here or so. Breathitt County ended up settling with Meta over the fact that Meta was targeting kids with unhealthy algorithms that were getting them addicted and leading to compromised mental health of their students. Now, they settled out of court. So this is, it was undisclosed, by the way. They sought $60 million from Meta to fund an addiction recovery program. Now, according to the terms of the agreement, Breathitt County officials are not allowed to talk about it, but you can make an educated guess that somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million was agreed upon. At the very least, it's in the millions of dollars for this lawsuit to go away. So here's my question. Do you think that social media should be restricted from minors in Kentucky? Because, friends, there was a bill this last legislative session, I believe it was House Bill 227, that would have restricted minors 15 and younger from getting on the platform. If you have any questions or comments, contact us, 502-571-0970.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Very good. Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. And this in from somebody tuned in, and they said this about the EKU bringing in a controversial rapper. They said we should look at faculty and staff who promoted this. We should pursue how to get them fired for using our tax money. And then they comment that this should be off campus. So, we do have recourse in the Commonwealth of Kentucky when we believe that our tax dollars are being misused or misappropriated. We can contact university officials. That's one avenue. The other is contacting our legislators, because they hold the power of the purse. They delegate where tax dollars go and what they should be spent on or what they shouldn't be spent on. And I'll tell you what, if you're concerned about this, you can call your legislator and say, hey, EKU is not being a good steward of our tax dollars, and we don't want these tax dollars going to vulgar and controversial programs that promote just things that are just not helpful, things that are immoral, things that are really don't build up our society, things that degrade women. And that's what Ice Spice is doing. You can contact your legislator right now, even though they're not in session. I'll go ahead and give out that number. If you're concerned about your tax dollars going to support indecent, inappropriate content that tears down women and that promotes vulgarities, contact your legislator, 800-372-7181, 800-372-7181, and share your concern with them. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for your comment there. Let's move on to primary election takeaways. It was just a week ago. It seems like it was weeks ago, but it was just 1 week ago today that Kentuckians went to the polls and voted in primary elections, everything from city council all the way up to the U.S. Senate. And one of the takeaways here, and I wrote an analysis piece, you can find it at our website, commonwealthpolicycenter.org. One of the big takeaways is that President Donald Trump has a firm grip on the Republican Party. And we saw this just days before our primary, where Donald Trump endorsed somebody in Louisiana against a sitting Louisiana U.S. Senator, Bill Cassidy. And Bill Cassidy lost his seat. He'd been in there for a couple of terms. He lost his seat to two other people. He ran a distant third. These other two people, the first one that won, who came in first, was an endorsement of Donald Trump's. Well, we saw something similar here in Kentucky. Donald Trump endorsed Andy Barr for the U.S. Senate. He won by a 2-1 margin over Daniel Cameron. Donald Trump also endorsed Ralph Alvarado over Ryan Dotson in the 6th congressional district. Dotson won by a 2-1 majority there. Those were two open seats, which were significant and an indication of Trump's impact he has on Republican primary elections. But here's where the biggest impact, I think, was, and that was in the 4th congressional district. This is where Thomas Massie, 7-term Republican incumbent congressman, got ousted by Ed Galrine, former Navy SEAL from Shelby County. And Trump's endorsement helped Galrine to get over that finish line. He won by 55 to 45% margin. Now, it took a lot of money. One figure had it up to $35 million was spent on the race, which was a record for a congressional primary, a record in U.S. history. Now, this race began a year ago, right after the One Big Beautiful bill was passed. It's something that Thomas Massie opposed, and ads started coming out against Massie back then. And we saw an incessant number of ads, mostly negative, going after Massie. It's interesting because the news just within the last couple of days says that Thomas Massie has filed an intent to run for re-election in 2028. He filed this with the Federal Election Commission, and that means he can begin raising money. So even though he lost this race, looks like he may be back again in 2028 to run again. Now, I had a chance to moderate a candidate forum there, and I got to ask Massie questions, by the way, of some of the attack ads that ran against him, and we still have that posted on the CPC website if you care to look at it. But he addressed many of the attacks there. The bottom line with the primary election was that Trump's impact on the election and on Republican primary was pretty significant in Kentucky and across the state. But here's one of the questions. Does Donald Trump's endorsement in the primaries, does that carry over into the general election? Many of the pundits and political observers are saying, hey, gas is over $4 a gallon. We're in an unpopular war with Iran. Trump's approval rating is low. Some are saying that these endorsements don't help in the November election. That remains to be seen. What are your thoughts on that? Text us at 502-571-0970. Talk a little bit more about some of the primary election takeaways. I talked about the Republican side. Something interesting on the Democratic side, two races I want to look at. Charles Booker, former state representative from Louisville, won the primary over Amy McGrath pretty handily. He is going to be on the ballot for U.S. Senate for the Democratic ticket. Now, people look at him and what he's campaigning on compared to Andy Barr and what he's campaigning on. And already the prognosticators and the predictions are saying Andy Barr wins this hands down. We'll see. The Democratic side also is that in the 6th congressional district, a newcomer by the name of Zach Dembo won the Democratic primary. It was a crowded field, several Democrats. I think it was 5 Democrats running there, some that are more known than Dembo, some that had better organized political organizations. But Dembo won. He's interesting because he's a former Department of Justice attorney, and he won the primary. He resigned abruptly not too long ago, because he believed that the Department of Justice was being used to target political opponents of the administration. Moving on to the State House. 3 Kentucky House incumbents lost. You had Louisville Democrat Daniel Grossberg. He was plagued by ethics violations and charges of misconduct. He lost in the 3-way primary. Also, State Representative Beverly Chester Burton lost her campaign, but she was under a cloud of previous DUI convictions, so she lost. And then Cole Cusick, Republican in Northern Kentucky, unseated Kim Banta, long-term Republican, who has served for, I want to say, 5 terms. Let's take this quick question before break. It says, Massie filing allows him to continue fundraising for any federal office. Do you think he might run for that congressional seat again, or do you think it's more likely that he runs for president? Great question. That's what people are speculating on. He could run for U.S. Senate in 2028 because Rand Paul is up. Rand Paul may run for president. He's talked about it. So very good question. So Massie could run again for the 4th District congressional seat. He could run for U.S. Senate, and some people are talking about him running for president as well. We will see. In the meantime, there's another question. What will Thomas Massie do between now and 2028? Some are saying he might lead a think tank. Some might say he might still be involved in Washington somehow. He still has 7 months in his term, so he will be there. He will be a factor for some amount of time. But it's fun to speculate, isn't it? And to prognosticate as to what will happen. But we will see. Thomas Massie is a force in Kentucky politics. He's not done. We'll see what happens here in the near future. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a minute, so stick with us.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Richard Nelson with Kentucky's Voice. Thank you so much for tuning in. Question just before the break was, why is Meta held responsible? Parents are responsible. Are parents passing the fault on to Meta? Of course, we were talking about Meta agreeing to an out-of-court settlement with Breathitt County Schools for targeting kids with addictive algorithms that compromise their mental health. Hey, that's a great question. And I would say yes, based on what I know of social media and how they're operating. I had a chance to dig in back this last session to help support a bill, House Bill 227, that would have banned minors from social media 15 and younger. And after looking at what the big social media companies, and it's not just Meta, it's the other ones, it's the TikTok, it's several others that are targeting them. And first of all, kids are a special category. Minors are a special category. They're not adults. Their minds aren't fully formed. They can't make adult decisions. So we protect them from certain things, right? They can't drink alcohol. They can't smoke until they're 21. They can't drive a car till they're, I guess it's 15 and a half now in Kentucky. It used to be 16. There's certain things that we keep kids from doing. Why? Because they need special safeguards in life. And big tech knows this. They've been creating algorithms that are meant to capitalize and monopolize on the time that young people have with social media. And you know what they're doing? They're selling to them. They're selling products to them. They're getting them to favor certain things, and then eventually to buy these things. And this is friends, kids can't make rational decisions. They can to an extent, but much of it they cannot. So we protect them from it. Just like, and again, the analogy I brought up was with big tobacco. Big tobacco was also targeting minors. If you remember, some of you who are old enough, I'm a Gen Xer, by the way, and I remember the Joe Camel campaign. And they had researched that the big tobacco advertisers found a cartoon-like figure that would resonate well with kids. Well, they pushed that figure onto kids, that image that this is cool and this is what your peers are doing. Big tobacco was found guilty of peddling a harmful product to young people, and I would say that they're just as guilty today peddling the social media algorithms. Now, the question about parents, yeah, you know what? Parents do have responsibility. Parents should police what their children are doing, but it is so difficult for parents when you have a child, let's say a middle schooler, 13, 14-year-old, and all the peers are on social media. It's so difficult for a parent to say, yep, but you're not going to be on it. It doesn't mean they can't do it. And there are some parents, God bless them, they are doing it, and they are keeping their kids off. But at a certain line, societally, we say, hey, collectively, we're going to acknowledge social media harms children. And that's what we were advocating for with House Bill 227. All right, another question here. Parents have got to get control of every aspect of their children's worlds. What happened to tough love? Yeah, I agree. Parents do need to be mindful. Man, they need to watch what their kids are exposed to. They need to police them. Friends, the internet is not a safe place. Kids should have limits as far as how much time they spend on the internet. Parents should check in from time to time to see what their kids are tuned into. There are predators lurking on the internet. So yes, parents have a big role to play in helping kids make good decisions and in protecting them. Here's another comment here. House Bill 227 should be 18 years and younger. Okay, that's even a more stringent restriction. 18 years and younger instead of 15 years and younger. Let's help parents do their job. Thank you for that comment. I tend to agree. part of it I'm biased. I see what's going on in social media, and a lot of it's a dumpster fire. A lot of it's something that we don't want our kids involved with. I think that House Bill 227 was set at 15 and younger because of constitutional challenges. They thought that if they lowered the age just a bit, some states tried 16 and younger, and those were thrown out on constitutional grounds. I think that that was the reason why. By the way, an interesting fact, tidbit about House Bill 227 is that allowed parents to opt their children in. If a parent said, hey, I want my kid to be on there, I think that social media is good, I want them to be on TikTok all day long, then they could have given approval for their child to be in. That's another aspect of this bill that made it more likely to withstand judicial scrutiny. All right, we got another question here, comment really. It says, social media has misled many adults as well. Oh, truth. Whoever sent that in, that is truth. Thank you. It's a place, unfortunately, where a majority of Americans are getting their news from social media. And friends, it's not always accurate. Yeah, news alert, right? So be wary of what you're reading on social media. There are some outlets that are responsible. They're simply reposting what they've reported or what they've commented on. But then you've got people or organizations that are not truthful. They're not accurate. And it makes it very, very difficult to discern what is true. By the way, my organization, Commonwealth Policy Center, is on social media every day. Often we're posting our daily commentaries, the scripts, and then other information, a link to our audio commentary, interviews that I do. We've got a half-hour program called The Commonwealth Matters. We are on there every day. We strive to be truthful. We strive to be accurate. We're not inflammatory. We're trying to approach public policy from a Christian perspective. That means we are doing it with excellence. We're trying to drill down into the truth. We're trying to be as factual and accurate as possible. And then our approach is in such a way where we are careful with it as well. So thank you for those comments. I'm going to move back to the election analysis. And we talked about President Donald Trump's influence on Republican primaries. We talked about what happened here in the U.S. Senate and in a couple of congressional races. And then just before the break, I talked about 3 Kentucky House incumbents losing. 2 were Democrats, 1 was a Republican. And I wanted to comment once more on the Republican who lost their seat. This was a several-term incumbent from Northern Kentucky. They were conservative on the fiscal issues. They were conservative when it came to education policy. But when it came to social issues, this person was on the left. Disagreed with, or let's say agreed, that gender ideology should go on in the schools. Actually, this person sponsored a bill that would ban counselors from helping young people move from unwanted sexual attractions, LGBT young people, gender dysphoric young people. This bill that she sponsored, her name was Kim Banta, by the way, would have banned any counselors from helping young people move from unwanted sexual desires. I would say that these issues, these social issues, where this incumbent was on the wrong side of the average Republican voter, those issues cost her the primary. By the way, this was the first primary that this person faced, and since they were in office, and they lost their seat. Cole Cusick is now the new state rep for this 63rd State House District. Cole is, full disclosure here, Cole's a friend, a former employee at Commonwealth Policy Center. We worked together for a couple of years, and we do wish him the best. Another big takeaway in last Tuesday's primary was that incumbent judge executives lost their races. Altogether, there were 18 Kentucky County judge executives. Now, if you're not sure where the judge executive is, these are the highest county office holders, right? It's kind of like the mayor for the whole county. Very powerful, very influential. But 18 of them who were in office lost their reelection bids. Some had been in there a long time. Now, The losses cut across the partisan divide. There were Democrat incumbents who lost. There were Republican judge executives who lost. The most notable was probably Judge Gary Moore of Boone County, served for almost 30 years. He was ousted by a more conservative candidate, Chet Hand. You have Steve Pendry up there in northern Kentucky. You had Kenny Imes in the far western part of the state in Callaway County. He lost. You had Brad Schneider in Henderson County. He lost his bid. A lot of surprise there to see long-standing and popular judge executives lose. Total of 15% of all judge executive positions turnover now in the seat. So here's the question. Is this an indication of voter dissatisfaction with incumbents? Because if it is, this could spill over into the primary election as far as how voters in Kentucky and across the country, for that matter, it will factor in to how they are processing the elections and the candidates who would best represent them in office. Another tidbit from the last primary election just a week ago was that voter turnout was higher than expected. Secretary of State Michael Adams projected voter turnout to be right about 20%, which was similar to the 2022 midterms, a similar election, but it was 5 percentage points higher than projected. So that in some ways, that's good. We want more people to participate. Much of the higher turnout came from the 4th Congressional District in Kentucky, where you had people who do not typically vote in midterms, but they came out to vote, and they voted for Ed Galrine against Thomas Massie. So higher turnout that impacted some races. We'll see what the turnout is like in the general election. One last thought was PAC spending, huge amount of PAC spending. Much of it was negative advertising in the Thomas Massie race. Much of it was negative advertising in the U.S. Senate race. That was ugly at times, especially months ago when Nate Morris was still in the race. A lot of negative advertising. PAC spending does not always make the difference, by the way. If you look at Cole Cusick's race, I'll go back to that state house race in northern Kentucky. He was outspent by huge margins. He received a barrage of attacks, many of them false attacks, many of them ugly attacks. Even though he was outspent, even though he was smeared, Cole Cusick won against a sitting Republican incumbent candidate, and he prevailed in that. We got to take a break. If you would stick with us, we'll be back in just a minute.
Now, Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host, Richard Nelson. Just before the break, we were talking about political action committee spending in various races across the state. There are many critics of the independent expenditure PACs, otherwise known as unauthorized campaign committees, and they say, hey, that should be banned. That should not be allowed. And we did not have these before 2010. 2010 is when the U.S. Supreme Court had a landmark ruling called Citizens United. And in the Citizens United case, they ruled that corporations are essentially like people, and corporations should be able to spend money to influence elections, that they should be able to oppose or support candidates, and hence the rise of something called super PACs. And we have them in place all across the state. A super PAC, by the way, does not necessarily mean that you're going to have a super amount of money. It is simply a structure that allows corporations and wealthy individuals to give unlimited amounts to an organization. Usually a super PAC has three components. They have a 501c3 nonprofit. 501c3 is a tax designation saying that they exist for the public benefit. They're educational organizations, and donations to these 501c3s are fully tax deductible. You have a 501c4 component, which means it's a hybrid between a C3 and a political entity, C4. You can have a corporation give to that unlimited amounts. And then the third thing that a super PAC has is a political action committee filing with the state or federal level. And technically, Commonwealth Policy Center has this structure. And Commonwealth Policy Center, my organization, gets involved in state level elections. So super PAC is just a structure where that allows very wealthy individuals and corporations get involved politically. Here's the question. Should super PACs be banned? Because after these huge elections like we just had, where there was a lot of spending, particularly in the U.S. Senate race and then in the 4th District congressional race, a lot of money was spent. There was a lot of negative advertising. Some people say, should these be banned? Some are saying, yeah, they should. If you have a question or comment, text us at 502-571-0970, 502-571-0970. The Supreme Court of the United States allowed telehealth abortions to continue. There was a case from another district level that made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the attorneys, I want to say it came from Louisiana. The attorneys were saying, look, medicines are coming across state lines into Louisiana, and Louisiana bans abortion. Louisiana is a pro-life state, just like Kentucky. And yet they're sending abortion-causing drugs. I said medicine. Anything that leads to the end of a human life really is not a medicine. It's a destructive force on another human being. But also telehealth abortions were happening. So the medicine, the drugs, there I go again. The drugs were sent through the mail. And then you'd have somebody that was advising how to do it, how to take the drugs, what to look out for. And Louisiana is saying, hey, our state laws are being violated. We want the state laws upheld. Something illegal is crossing the state lines. And we need the federal government to step in and to stop this. Now, the Supreme Court allowed that to continue, the telehealth. And I don't even like to use the word health in the same sentence with abortion, but they're going to allow that practice to continue. It was a 7-2 ruling, surprised a lot of people. However, there's another take on this. The U.S. Supreme Court may be waiting for a better case. They may be waiting for more information. This is not the end of the issue regarding abortion drugs, those drugs that lead to the end of a human life inside the womb, or telehealth abortions. It's not the end of that issue. It's one that Kentucky's dealing with right now, friends. there was a bill in our state legislature this last session that would increase penalties for those who are involved with trafficking of life-ending drugs across state lines. It would increase for those who are sending the drug, those who are breaking our law. It would increase the penalties. Russell Coleman is our Attorney General, and he favors increasing penalties. He favors stopping life-ending drugs from crossing state lines. And by the way, the bill that was proposed doesn't just deal with abortifacients, abortions, those unborn children in the womb. It doesn't just deal with that. It would deal with life-ending drugs for those who are looking for assisted suicide. And that's a huge issue on the horizon, where more and more states are allowing assisted suicide. Illinois was one of the most recent states, just within the last 6 months or so. Illinois approved what they call, and it's a euphemism, what they call medical aid in dying. Friends, good medicine helps people when they are dying, when they're suffering. It doesn't, good medicine doesn't just give drugs to somebody and say, hey, here you go. This is the way out of your pain. This is the way out. We have capability to alleviate suffering. We have capability to be there in the process. There's, of course, healing capability, incredible medical advancements that where we're curing cancer. With AI, by the way, there's new tools there that help in cancer diagnoses. There are ways that we help people, but a good and just society never says to sick people, here's a drug, take the pill, get it over with. Friends, that is not the way, nor is it the Christian way. For Christians, we are told to be compassionate, to be caring, to meet the needs, to come alongside somebody and to walk through their suffering with them. I'm spending so much time on the euthanasia part. Didn't plan to, but it's worth speaking about because it is an issue. And these euthanasia life-ending drugs are coming across state lines for those who want to take their own life. This is an issue that has come up in our state legislature in the past. Bills have been promoted to legalize this, and I do expect it to continue to come up. But what will you say when somebody says to you, hey, my loved one is suffering. I can't stand to see them suffer. I can't stand to see them in any more pain. What should we do with this? And that's a question you may be asked. Or if you're not, your legislator will be asked. If you have a thought or comment on that, text us at 502-571-0970. All right, news out of California. And we see where parents in California. Actually, I got a message here, so put that on hold for just a moment. We've got a comment in here. It says, let's see if I can pull this up and see what it says. It was up for a second and then it went away. Here we go. I got it. It says citizens are required to vote blindly for judges. Voters do not have access to, I believe it says, information about judges. Hey, that's a really good comment, because according to the Judicial Conduct Commission in Kentucky, judges can't reveal their party affiliation. Judges really can't talk about issues. They can talk about their judicial philosophy. They can talk about their family or work history, but they can't really tell us where they stand on important issues. So how can Kentuckians cast a responsible vote when it comes to judges? And by the way, in central Kentucky, I'm in Frankfort right now, but in central Kentucky, in this Court of Appeals district, there's a contested race on the ballot in November. And I want to know as much as I can. Is the candidate a constitutionalist? Are they a strict constructionist? I want to know if they're pro-life. I want to know who their influences were on the U.S. Supreme Court. Before I cast a vote, I want to know a few things about them. So perhaps the law needs to be changed. There have been tweaks made to it, but maybe not enough. But good comment there as far as blindly voting for judges. By the way, Commonwealth Policy Center has information about the candidates and about the elections, and we do plan to have information about the Court of Appeals races. No state Supreme Court race on the ballot this year. We do plan to have that information for you on our website this election season. If you're not getting our updates, go to CommonwealthPolicyCenter.org. That's CommonwealthPolicyCenter.org, and sign up to get our updates so you stay in the loop with who's on the ballot and also where they stand on the issues. Just before that question, I started to talk about California taking a gender-confused child from their parents. So there was a couple back in 2024 who lost custody of their daughter. She, born female, transitioned to male. The parents didn't support this. They're both Ukrainian immigrants, by the way. Alexandra Lishashenko was the mother. She and her husband lost custody of their then 15-year-old daughter back in 2024 after they opposed her desire for gender transition. Well, friends, California is known as a sanctuary state for gender-confused minors. They passed a bill a few years ago authorizing the police, judges, teachers, anybody in authority from taking that child. If a child were to go to an authority and say, hey, my parents do not support my chosen gender identity, can you help me? The state is authorized to take that child from the parent and put them into foster care. And that's what happened to the Lishashenkos in 2024. Latest news is that the state of California is putting this, they're now 17-year-old gender-confused child into the process for adoption into a new family. I don't know. I don't know where to begin with that. Just where you instead of helping a child embrace their born gender, whether it's male or female, or we could talk about the violation of parental rights. What became of parents training their child, having religious convictions as far as how their children should live and how they should embrace their gender. So much to talk about there. My recommendation, don't go to California if you have a gender dysphoric child, because they could go to the authorities and that could be the end of seeing that child. Don't want to alarm you. I want to leave on a positive note. Know that God is in control. He governs in the affairs of men. And we're out of time. It's good to have you with us, and God bless you. Until next time.